Good morning, it's 9 o'clock. Go ahead and call me to start. Pledge of allegiance. First item is approval of today's agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. Next is approval of the minutes of February 27th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented dated February 27th, 2023.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next is approval of claims for payment of March 6th.
Make a motion to approve the March 6th, 2023 claims for payment.
I'll second that, Lance.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. Before I forget, there's a sign up sheet for any public comments. If people have any comments to be said later, just make sure you sign up. I don't have 902 yet, so I'm gonna jump down to the auditor's monthly report.
Lance, I'll make a motion to approve the auditor's monthly report as presented, or acknowledge receipt. Sorry.
I will second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. Next is recorders.
Make a motion to approve the recorder's monthly report for the month of February.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now we have the sheriff's.
Lance, I'd make a motion to acknowledge receipt of the sheriff's monthly report for February 2023.
I will second it.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. I have 902. Let's go ahead and open the public hearing for the road vacation, section 3, township 88 and range 19. Taylor, you want to tell us about it?
Sure, so this is for the road that never was on the way to the Pine Lake Corn Processors. What year was it? 03, 04, something in there. But anyway, it was established to be the road. You remember last summer, they came to us and wanted us to release the easement. You guys already did that. So this is just kind of cleaning up my offices. And so the road was established. We're gonna unestablish it.
Okay.
It was established on paper.
Yes, and that was it. Because then somewhere after that, they decided to just, move 169th and make a different road, so.
Okay. And they only need one entrance.
And they're the ones that asked us to do this, Pine Lake Corn Processors. Yep.
So this is a public hearing. We can unmute people. Has there been any written? Okay. Any public? Anybody out there? Have the ability to unmute yourself? Hearing nothing, I guess.
Thanks. I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I will second it.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Lance.
Aye.
Renee.
Aye.
BJ.
Aye.
It is closed. Moving on, we have a motion to enter a buy-sell agreement regarding purchase of 100 North State Street, Hubbard, Iowa. This is something that,
Talking your name.
Why don't you lead it off?
Okay, so we've been in talk for a while. That is the J&T Logistics in Hubbard, the current building. So we've been talking to them for a while about purchasing it. So we met with them a couple times and we had a handshake agreement. So then I passed it off to Daryl to kind of go ahead and get moving with that.
this is something that you budgeted for a year ago as well.
Correct.
The price is a little higher than what you budgeted for.
It's pretty close.
Yep.
Yeah. The fire is what threw our budget off the most.
I don't know if Daryl wanted any more.
I did receive, from Iowa Realty, the consensual dual agency agreement and a copy of the proposed purchase agreement. And I was interested in what non-fixtures would be included in the property. And I noticed in these in the photograph, there were some solar panels on the roof. They stay with, okay. And I think it would be appropriate to enter a motion authorizing Taylor and I to proceed with the buy-sell agreement, and then ultimately present something else to this board, but give us that authority so that we can move forward with this.
Okay, I could entertain a motion.
Lance, I'd make a motion to direct engineer Rawl and attorney Meyer to continue the due diligence and enter into the buy-sell agreement regarding the purchase of 100 North State Street in Hubbard, Iowa.
I will second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Motion carried. Next is the motion to enter buy-sell agreement regarding purchase of 8 residential lots in Eldora.
Lance, I'm gonna go ahead and explain a little bit about the premise and background here. But I've been directed by legal counsel to hold off on the buy-sell agreement for today, so this will strictly be informational only.
Okay.
In making investments in the community, we found that adequate and marketable housing is being an issue when it comes to luring and relocating professionals in the county. And the property of the Otter Creek, I believe. Is that correct, Roger?
Yes.
Okay. There's 8 lots out of Otter Creek development area for sale. And the beautiful thing about these properties is they are pretty much shovel ready. There's utilities right there. Everything is ready for either single family dwellings or multifamily housing like a condo or townhouse. That's to be determined, but we have professionals wanting to move to the community and housing is limited. So this would give us an opportunity to be able to create an environment in which individuals and families could relocate to Eldora. Going forward, I'd like to find more of these opportunities where there's good lots with infrastructure available in other communities. But this is just that first step, and I had a discussion with City Administrator Budwig this morning, who was very supportive of us looking into this as a first step in Eldora's economic development.
Would this be partnered? Is that when he said that, would this be partnered with Eldora as well?
At some point, I think any development agreements could be partnered with the city of Eldora, and I'm sure our economic development director, Deb Crosser, will have discussions with both developers that are looking to do the construction in the area, as well as working with the city of Eldora.
Okay,
Are these properties currently located within a TIP or urban renewal area
That
under the city of Eldora?
I don't know, Renee.
Because if they are, I don't know the procedure for changing that or whatever, but any improvements made on the empty lots, the city would get the benefit of the
Right.
taxes off of that rather than the county.
Yeah. At this point, I would like to see county revenues go up, but I would also be okay with the compromise of getting some taxable property on the rolls. But more importantly, I want to look at being able to recruit and retain individuals to move to the county, and housing shown both in the economic engineering and our labor shed studies has been one of the biggest hurdles.
Right.
So, yeah,
location, if the school was still building houses, that's a perfect location for them.
yeah,
And they built quite a few of them throughout the
Yeah.
years, but I don't know how the class is today.
And one of the other things I think is important is potential funding sources. I think it's important to bring up a fiscal note. We sold county farm ground, and so we did generate a significant amount of income off of that sale that we really do need to reinvest in the communities. And this is, I think, a good first start.
Okay. Anything else?
No, thank you, Vince.
Motion,
I don't think there needs to be a motion. Daryl is gonna continue to work with, Marilyn Reinertsen and Roger to make sure that we're heading in the right direction before we enter that next phase.
okay. Then I will move to the next.
Thank you, Lance.
No, thank you. Consideration to approve special class C retail alcohol license for Meadow Hills Golf Course.
I will make a motion to approve the alcohol license for Meadow Hills Golf Course in Rag Club.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? Expires 11/15 of 2023, just making up license. Anything else? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Next is consideration to approve a 2080 sharing of mental health advocate.
Lance, can I ask that Lynn Adams discuss this or address this item? Thank you, Lynn.
Yeah, and actually, I'm gonna ask you to defer action on it today, but I did bring a draft. Just for you to look at, because there will probably be a few small changes. Just, I found out, and I don't know, BJ, if you remember this, but late Friday, we found out that the Story County attorney wants to make a few small changes, so rather than the board look at approving it today, I'd rather you wait and then maybe you can put it back on your agenda for next week. But as you know, we've shared our mental health advocate Aaron Swartz for several years. This agreement is based on one that was approved originally in 2015, when Story County became part of Mary's caseload, and then in 2017, Marshall County also, Mary took on Marshall County. So it's pretty much the exact same agreement with a few small minor changes, but it would add Hamilton. Hamilton County's mental health advocate is retiring, and rather than and he only did Hamilton County, he was part-time, so rather than them trying to hire him part-time, and really all the costs related to the advocate are paid by the region, but it's kind of a strange situation because by law, the advocate has to be an employee of the county. But yet, at the end of each month, the reports we get from the auditor's office, we basically bill back all of those costs, get billed back to the region each month, and we get a check and it goes into the general fund. So it's all, the costs are all covered by the region, but you guys are the employer. And so, you know, really, you've been the employer of the advocate, you've set a salary. You know, the advocate has followed the Hardin County policy for all those years. Really what we're doing is adding Hamilton County. And Story County had signed off on this 2 different times already before in the exact pretty much same format, but you know how the attorneys there, right? And actually the Hardin County attorney, I think it was Rick at that time, helped us. When did you start? Yeah, so I think Rick helped us when we originally wrote this up, but, and I don't think he's looking at big things, but I think he thinks it should be more as an amendment to the current 2080 rather than a whole new 2080. So, but I think the language and everything are pretty much the same. But so that's just kind of a little background on why we're changing this, and then it's related to later on your agenda with the change of status too. So we'll talk about that.
Okay. Do we want to table this or the motion? You're gonna change it, so it'd be an amendment instead, right? Instead of a new.
Could you just table until next week?
Sure.
Because we'd like to have it effective the 20th, because the other person's retiring the 17th, and they're going to start next Monday for that county.
Okay,
Make a motion to table the sharing agreement with mental health advocate costs.
I'll second that.
it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Table. Next is discussion of possible action of dental insurance renewal. That was thrown on there. Is Becca available up there?
There's no changes to
Okay.
the plan. I'll make a motion to approve the dental insurance renewal as presented.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Next, we have change of status.
Lance, I've got one question on one change of status on Mary Swartz. Would you accept a motion with the pending 28E approval? So we can get that in the works? Or do you want to wait and do the 28E and a change of status at the same time?
Well, that, Lynn, you said you were gonna talk about it here.
Well, I think
She's gonna start to
take
do
action on that
these.
today because it does say on the sheet that it's contingent on that.
Right.
Okay.
And that way we need to know for sure that we can even go ahead and finish it up with these other counties, you know.
So Lance, I'm gonna go ahead, I'll make a motion to approve the change of status for Mary Swartz, mental health advocate at a rate of $30 an hour, full-time. This is a promotion and a pay increase.
I will second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
So as previously stated, Mary's gonna be taking on another county, and I had asked Lynn to gather wage data for similar work with commensurate experience. And so the $30 an hour, it was my suggestion after reviewing the data set provided with for experience and years of service and knowledge base.
And again, this is contingent.
Correct.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Lance, I'd make a motion on the change of status for Jessica Sheridan. This is a change moving from an exempt position to non-exempt from salary to hourly at a rate of $27.93 an hour.
I will second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? It's something that this is not a blue. I had a discussion on her as well. Any other discussion?
Thanks for taking care of that, Lance.
No more, all in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries.
Lance, I'd make a motion to approve the change of status for Tiffany Eisentrager, resignation from the assessor's office. She is making $26.50 an hour.
I will second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries.
Lastly, I'll make the motion to approve the change of status for Ashley Klafke, resignation from, the auditor's office at a rate of $20 an hour.
I will second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Other business.
I don't have anything.
I have nothing.
You might possibly be in the conference room next week, depending on little. The week after. The week after.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Mary.
So pay attention to the agendas where we'll be. Other than that, public comments. I got Denny that signed up. Does anybody else want to sign up while they're here? Okay, Denny, come on up. Sure.
Morning, everybody. I'm Denny Frias, lifelong resident of Hardin County. During my 53rd year of farming down in Hardin City, Concord Township. Fourth generation in the area. My son is actually taking over the farm quite a bit for me, but I'm still involved doing what I want to do. I don't get involved with taking care of the pigs anymore. But anyway, I got a couple of grandsons that are helping on the farm. So pleasure to be here with you today. I want to address the issue of ethanol and especially how important it is. We've heard a lot of negative comments about the pipeline. So I want to address the ethanol industry and how important this is to me as a farmer. On the sideline, I'm president of the Iowa Farm Growers Association. We have addressed the pipeline issue and all kinds of policy issues for many years. I've been on the board for 10 years. We actually passed a bill. So the way corn growers work, we're a grassroots organization. We have all members come into roundtable discussion to bring up policy issues to the board. That they bring them to our committees, and our committees look at them, and then we bring them to a grassroots summit every August, where the members come in and vote on our issues. So we have two interesting policy issues that I'd like to share with you what we have today. We have a policy to support the ethanol industry for whatever it needs. Not specifically the pipeline, but it is very important to it. The other policy issue we have is we support eminent domain for the landowners. So that's the background information of what I want to share with you. And then, so looking at the ethanol industry, 25 years ago, farmers created ethanol as a fuel to support and maybe even replace fossil fuel industry. We have a fuel in ethanol that's clean burning and that is not no toxins on the combustion of it. And we even have the approval of the American Lung Association for clean air. Ethanol is a renewable form of energy. There are 42 ethanol plants in Iowa. There are 4 of them within 30 miles of my operation. 2 of them here in Hardin County, Pine Lake, and Iowa Falls. The ethanol plants process 1.6 billion bushels every year in Iowa. That's close to 60% of our corn that we produce in Iowa goes through an ethanol plant. The ethanol plant takes the starch out of the plant, the sugar out of the plant and makes ethanol, but there's also a co-product that's very important to our process, and that's dried distiller grains. So we're taking the fuel value out of the corn plant and leaving the protein value that we feed back the livestock in there. So there's 40,000 jobs directly and indirectly in Iowa associated with ethanol industry. That's a $4 billion added to Iowa's gross domestic product. 2.2 billion of this goes into household incomes. Ethanol is a market-driven product. California is our #1 user of Iowa ethanol in the country. Canada is our #1 international market. Matter of fact, I think everything, I've been around here lately, but I know a year ago, everything produced here at Pine Lake was directly shipped to Canada. So ethanol plants were started, and many of them are owned today by Iowa farmers. The economy has E10 in all the gas stations in Iowa, and we passed, the legislature passed a law last year in Iowa to make E15 as a standard for many of the stations to adapt to. And hopefully we'll get that there. So we have the grassroots support for our production and even for the pipeline, the basics use of it. So today's market, my price today is 30 cents a bushel above Chicago Board of Trade. Before we had ethanol, our price here locally was 20 to 40 cents below the Board of Trade price. So there's a 50, 60 cent value that we as farmers get cash price for by having a local market for our corn here in Iowa. It's tremendous value to us. I used to sell my corn to the Garden City elevator, shipped out with freight. I take it over to either to Pine Lake, or I also take it to a feed mill over in Eldora, but that's my market. So I'm marketing my corn locally. We don't have to deliver it out of state. Today's situation, if we look at the energy standards. So carbon dioxide is a big problem in ethanol production, like in any other marketing facility. But we as farmers sequester carbon in all the crops we grow. That's carbon, you hear that all over. Carbon is the big player, and that's what the pipeline is all about. So farmers can receive, today I can receive payments. I've actually signed up with one of the companies that we receive payments for sequestering more carbon on our farms. The big one is no-till. Second one is probably cover crops. But on my farm, the other things that are adaptable is how we utilize that energy, how we utilize our nutrients, and how we reduce our tillage. So there's money out there that we get a value for by being the carbon sequesters. manufacturing process of ethanol and any other industries, even manufacturing of equipment, everything else, that releases carbon dioxide into the air, and that's the problem. We got to reduce the carbon going into the air, and we feel that ethanol can really make this pipeline is there to adapt to that and help that. Smart climate legislation by the government is providing financial incentives for this carbon sequestrations. There's 30+ companies right now involved in helping farmers get a value out of their carbon sequestrations. The main two are Indigo and Argo, are the main two. The Soybean Association and several others. But all these companies are setting up programs to bring to us farmers how we can earn extra credits, because this money coming in is due to many of the companies that are required by law to be more sustainable in their carbon output. Big players are manufacturing companies, airlines, even clothing companies, food processing plants. All of these have to account for their carbon emissions. And so this carbon sequestration, they'll invest money to buy our credits that we're doing on the farm. So it's a major thing for us farmers. As another, we're part of the problem, we're also part of the solution. So where does the pipeline come in? So the pipelines will liquefy carbon dioxide and move it underground to either North Dakota or Illinois, where it is taken down into underground caverns. And underground caverns, in time it'll turn into rock formations. It'll be there where it won't be released into the atmosphere. So there's 3 pipelines being planned in Iowa. I'm sure many of you are aware, but we have Summit, Navigator, and Wolf. So both Summit and Navigator have pipelines coming across Hardin County. So these pipelines are to connect the ethanol plants and manufacturing plants to move this carbon through the pipelines instead of into the air. So some CO2 today is utilized by these plants for carbonization of beverages. I know Poet and Buell sells a lot of carbon dioxide to bottling companies, and livestock processing facilities. Carbon dioxide is used to kill animals when they go to the market, rather than the old used to use shot or shells and bullets and all that. So it's used there. So it's also this is a very low percentage of what we utilize, what we produce going out of our process of making ethanol. So we need to get rid of more of it. So the pipeline income, you've heard of Summit, you've heard of Navigator, they're all utilizing carbon credit or tax credit dollars, what they call the 45Q and a 45Z. This is where their income is coming from. They're not getting a cash payment from the government, but by their return on this, they get paid tax credits for the income they get from this pipeline. So how do the pipelines value me as a farmer? I can lease the ground to the pipeline. One of the things we're concerned about is eminent domain and taking over your farmland. Well, I've actually sat down with Navigator, going through my farm, 5/8 of a mile. They have guaranteed, they have talked to me, they're gonna pay me, they'll put the pipe 5 feet deep. They will remove the soil, so it's 5 feet deep. They're gonna take the bottom 2 feet, put one pile, the middle 2 feet, another pile, the top 2 feet, and the third pile. When they put that soil back in after the pipeline is there, it's gonna have the same structure as it had. There's many pipelines in Iowa. I'm confident that this won't affect my yields at all, because the soil structure will remain the same. They actually, so they paid me a lease based on $16,000 an acre value on my land, which was very modestly pretty good price of land. So this 50-foot strip they're taking through my land, it amounts to 3.74, but then there's an easement of 50 feet. So a total of 9.45 acres that they're going to actually come on my land when they do it. So it's 3,300 feet, and it's a 12-inch pipe going underneath with an extra 4 inches outside of that for the installation. They're not taking my land out of the crop, out of production long term. I'll lose the crop for 1 year, but they're paying, actually, they look at my proven yields on my farm. And the last year I averaged 258 bushels an acre across that parcel of land where they were they're gonna pay me 2.5 years of crop loss because of putting in the pipeline at $8 a bushel. So they're very reasonable on what they're paying me as a farmer. It's a they're gonna compensate me very well for what's being put in there. And the CO2 is not toxic, as I heard before, there's one pipeline in Mississippi that had some other things other than just CO2 in it, that was from an oil refinery, it's in the news. But we have CO2 in our air every day, so that's part of our atmosphere.
I got another meeting that night.
Okay, so there are thousands of miles in Iowa, under pipelines. So the opposition talks about they're losing the land, or not losing the land. We have the policy to protect eminent domain and closing. Well, the biggest opponent is Sierra Club. They're basically anti-agricultural. But in closing, the carbon sequestration has been happening since the 1980s worldwide, 16 million tons every year. Pipeline Hazardous Materials Safety Administration is a regulatory body, part of the U.S. Department of Transportation. So this pipeline is safer than any other. They're the safest mode of transportation to move the carbon dioxide. And without carbon sequestration, there's no realistic plan to get to the 2050 carbon goal. So if we lose ethanol in Iowa, the plants locally will move to Minnesota, Illinois, out of state, and they'll still produce the ethanol. So this concerns we have, we need to have the support what the value of what this pipeline is doing for our industry.
Thank you.
Questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
That was the only public comment I had on, so I can ask for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Been moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
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 Motion carried for adjournment.